the people of AA, it's just, we love each other, and it's just, I'm just very honored to be able to hear her story as well as his last night. Here's Maria.
Good morning, my name is Maria and I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety day is July 23rd, 2014. I have a sponsor. I get the honor and privilege of sponsoring other women in the fellowship. And I have a home group. It's a big book, study primary purpose book on Tuesday nights. We get into the book, we read it slowly, and we talk about the solution that's been provided in the book. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you to everybody. It's been a wonderful experience. I've enjoyed it to this point, and to this point, because now I'm nervous. But I do. I've been doing my prayer meditation, and and I'm just a vessel. That's it. I'm here just a vessel to carry some experience, strength, and hope. And I'm just waiting for God to kick in at any time right now so that He can take over. But prior to coming to Alcoholics Anonymous, the woman that walked in on July 23rd of 2014 is not the woman that's standing here today. And that I owe it to the fellowship and to the 12 steps and to God, most importantly. I didn't think I could find a power greater than myself that could restore me to any type of sanity, because I didn't believe that I was worthy of a God that wanted to spend some time with me. Because of all the shenanigans I had done throughout my drinking. I was born in Nicaragua. I'm just going to give you a little bit about myself. I was born in Nicaragua. It's nothing to do with Mexico. It's another country. It's Central America. And I grew up a little, my household, I grew up in a toxic household. And I say that because that does not make me an alcoholic. That just makes it a toxic household, period. I'm an alcoholic as described in the book. I remember at the age of, I took my first drink at the age of 13, and I was in Nicaragua, in my country, and I just wanted to fit in. I just wanted to fit in, and I just wanted to be a part of. And in my country, they don't ID you, they don't do nothing, you just go, you buy it, and you drink it. And that was it was just cool. I don't remember nothing from that moment except I was able to drink. That's it. At the age of 17, I knew, I always grew up with this idea of not being good enough, not fitting in. Either I felt like I was too good or I felt like I was too bad. I was never okay with the woman that I was, or the child that I was, or the teenager that I was. I always felt inadequate. I would walk into a room and my mind will start thinking, chattering. There was a committee going on constantly, and it would always say they're talking about you. They're probably saying this, and they're comparing this. It was a lot, guys, a lot. If you spend a minute in my mind, you will walk out from there crazy, at that time. And at the age of 17, I found a solution, with some drinking. I thought, maybe this void or this idea that I have inside is going to be fixed if I have a child. So I planned having a child. And I say that because this has a lot to do with my drinking. When I planned this child, her name is Maggie, she's now 24, and I have her permission to share this part of my story. When I planned having Maggie, I was 17, I used to draw precious moments, and I looked forward to having this child, when she was born, I looked at her and I made a promise, and I said, I will love you, I will take care of you, and I will protect you for the rest of your life, Maggie. And I held it, and I meant it at that time, with every single fiber inside of me. There's, I would die for my child, but I cannot stop drinking for this child. At the age of, 22, my younger brother, I'm the oldest of three. I have a sister and I have a younger brother, and his name was George. And George, I was 21, I had 2 children at that time. And George got into a car accident, and he died as a direct result of this disease. You know, he was driving back, and he had alcohol in his system and non-conference approved goods inside of him as well. And this was something that we did not talk about in my house. We did not talk about the big elephant that was in there, why that he died. Because my parents lived with this constant fear of, what are they gonna say about him? You know, and when you learn and you come to accept that alcoholism and this whole thing is a disease, you know, compassion grows as opposed to judgment. And I don't think my parents had that within themselves. You know, they didn't know about the disease at that time. George got into a car accident. He was airlifted to Jackson Memorial Hospital in Miami, Florida. After 4 months of being in a coma, he died, you know, and I had 2 kids, and I had just given birth to my second son. His name is Junior. And the day that my brother died, my mom sat there and held him, just listening to his heart. And she said, "You were born in my arms, and now you're dying in my arms, son." You know, and I think when we think about our disease, we think that we're not hurting anyone. And we think that we are not affecting those around us. We think we're just doing it to ourselves. You know, and I seen that pain in that woman was just devastating. And it was heartbreaking, and it was like in my eyes, you know, seeing this pain, right? And I say these two, about these 2 situations in my life because my alcoholism, you know, had started before. I think I was born an alcoholic. That's it. My time was running from the minute it was like, let's go, you know, from the minute I came out of my mom. And these situations were sufficient force to bring about, you know, try to remember what happened to help me stop or control my drinking. And neither one of these situations ever came to my mind saying, hey, remember, no drinking and driving, Maria. Your brother died in a car accident, and you saw how painful that was to your family. Like, it never came. Like, the thought never came. It never was, you know, the thought that would come would be like, your brother passed in a car accident, and this was the second thought. But you can manage this, because if you drive well, if you do this, if you do, you know, like, I could get away with it. After, you know, George passed away, like, I remember one of my drinking episodes was I was going on the Metro Rail in Miami, Florida, and I was going to work, and I passed out, and I came to, you know, and I was like jittery from the whole weekend, you know, of drinking. Like we used to say in my family, we have a very large family. My grandfather and my grandmother had 10 children, so parties were like fun in my grandparents' house, and there was always alcohol. And, you know, we used to wake up on Sunday or Monday or whatever the day was, and it was 9 o'clock, get a beer, and it's like, oh, we gotta find the snake that bit us, right? And to help cure this. And so that month I came to, and I couldn't remember, and I was like, it was from so much. I had so much alcohol over that weekend that I just passed out. And, you know, I moved to North Carolina in 2008 originally because I did the geographical, right? I figured that if I moved to a calmer place, I was going to be calmer. And that did not work. My alcoholism took off. I had started with Friday, Saturday, then it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, then it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then so on and so forth. You know, at this point I had at that time 3 kids, you know, my Maggie, my Junior, my Georgie. And I moved, I got a job, I came without a job, I came without anything, I applied, and you know, I was listening to a speaker, and he's very right, like I can interview very well, like very well. Like, you know, I can convince you, like, you know, and then, like, I start missing work, or I start getting away from, you know, putting excuses at work. But I stayed, you know, they kept me, I thank God for the gift of some intelligence, right? Like, I think I was good in the job that I was doing at that time. And it started progressing, my drinking. When, at the age, when my Maggie was 13, I went to a trip to Miami, a business trip with her, and I was married at that time. That was marriage number 2. I was married, and I went on a trip to Miami, and my ex-husband stayed with the boys, and I went to Miami, and it was like a 30-minute business trip, and then the rest was partying, right? And I went to a little bar where they had a little rinkety-dinkety bar that's like a hole in the wall, and there was a band from my country that was singing, and the singer was singing, and I say, oh, there he is. It's the man of my dream, This is the reason I've been married to the wrong guy. This is why I drink. This is why I'm miserable. This is what. And sure enough, I went up to this guy, and I came back. And we started dating. While I had a husband. I had boyfriends too. And I came back, and I told my ex-husband, at that time, my husband, I said, I think you have to go. I've made a mistake and marry you, right? And when I look back, when I married my 2 former husbands, I always married planning a divorce, planning how I'm gonna exit. I was never, I was a wrecking ball, guys. I was like a wrecking ball out there, And, I remember one of and needless to say, that relationship was not real. It was like an illusion in my mind. It did not work. The guy was like in another country. It was not, But I would sit there and I would listen to like very painful music, like as the saddest songs you can think of, and just drink. I just like cry and drink and cry. And I used to say to myself, I want to feel the pain. I got to feel the pain. And I just drink and cry. And as I'm doing this, I have 3 little children watching their mom get drunk and in pain. And just be in complete isolation in the rooms or in the car. Like I would drink we would go to events, and, I would drink and drive with these children. One time I passed out in the highway, and the cop just knocked on my door, and my 3 kids were in the car. I would sit in the parking with my passed out, and my daughter Maggie would come, and she would, just tell me, Mom, come on, let's go inside. She would take me inside. Like, this was not the life that I planned for these children when I birthed each of these. They were in a lot of pain, and they were suffering a lot. Seeing their mom just drink, and hurting them, and just passing out and embarrassing them at every level. Like one time I was out with my sister, and I was in a blackout. That's like all I knew how to drink. I just knew how to drink and pass out and black out. I was either stopped by something, or I never knew. Like, I could not understand when people would say, "Oh, no, thank you." I was like, what the fuck you mean, no, thank you? Like, you just drink more, especially if it's free, right? Like, if it's free, you drink till you drop. And one time I was out with my sister, and we had been drinking, and I passed out in a car, and it was not my car. I just walked into somebody's car, and I was just sleeping, and they got me out, and then she's like, Maria, get up, the cops are here. And I'm like, I don't even, like, they got me out, and they took me to the emergency. I had alcohol poisoning, and they cleaned me up. And then I was mad at her. I was like, did you give them my social security? Now they're going to charge me for bringing me to the hospital. Like, I'm not thinking of, like, you could have died out there, Maria. Like, I was, like, twisted. Like, to have a profound alteration in my reaction to life is a complete miracle of this 12-step program. Another time, my sister and I were driving. So now we, like I said, we're 3. I'm the oldest, my sister and my younger brother. My sister and I are driving back from Greensboro, North Carolina to Asheboro. It's about 35-minute drive, and we get into a car accident. And it never occurred to neither one of us this is not a good idea. Maybe don't drink and drive. Your brother died in a car accident. The pain that your parents are, that does not crowd into my mind at all. I don't think about anybody else. Like, the disease does not allow me to think of anybody else. It does not, it ripped my brother, alcoholism took my brother. It ripped all of us it ripped me from having a brother, a mother from having a son, children from having an uncle. And I'm not thinking that this is where I'm going. It's not that bad. That's what I used to say. Because all I drank, this is what I drank. I drank Corona Lights, and it had 90 calories. And like a normal person does not obsess on the amount of calories you're intaking I was like, food or Corona, right? It was like, that's just how that's how I was thinking, So we get into a car accident, and by the grace of a loving God, which I did not believe in, neither one of us got arrested. Nothing happened to us. I have stitches here, and it was from that accident. And, when I'm in the middle of it, the cops are there, I'm like, God, please help me. God, please, just help me get out of this one. That's it. I'm not going to do this shenanigans anymore. I'm done, And then the next day, I'm like, oh, that was close. Let's go buy a 12 to celebrate. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't, maybe go to church or none of that, crowds my mind, It was just and then we got close. I was close, and we're drinking and we're celebrating. And in North Carolina, they don't sell alcohol till 12. And to me, all this was foreign because I moved to Asheboro, and it was a dry county. I was like, what? From Miami? All you see is non-alcoholic beverages, and I was very confused with that. And then waiting till 12 to sell alcohol in Miami, that's not a problem. You go to a pharmacy and they're selling beer at any time, all the time, and, after that, I think, after I came back from that from that boyfriend that I had found, and I told my ex-husband he needed to go somewhere because I was done. And he moved out, and I got a job offer in Miami, and right before that job offer, I was out partying all the time. And I would come into the house, and one of the times that I went out, and this is the part that I have full disclosure and permission of my daughter to disclose this, and because she loves this program. Maggie loves this program because it gave her a different mom. I came in and I was in a blackout, and I was carried inside the room. And I come to the next day, and my sister tells me, we got to talk. And I don't know if you guys ever experienced that. We have to talk, and you don't remember what happened the next day, and it's like, what happened? What, God help me, please. And I did not really want to hear what we had to talk about, but I had no choice. And my daughter starts and tells me, Mom, yesterday when you came in a blackout and you were carried into the room, I was sleeping in the couch. And one of the persons that your cousin came in, and he started touching my legs. And, I got up, and when he was going to start getting more, I got up and I said, hold on, because he was going to start unbuckling. And she's like, I went to look for you, Mom. And I found you, and I was trying to wake you up. And I said, Mom, wake up, and you wouldn't wake up. And she said, and all I did was lifted up your arm. And I just stayed there because I was scared, and I wanted you to protect me. But I was in a complete blackout. And I don't remember that. You see, the promise that I had made Maggie when she was born 14 years prior to that day was that I was going to love her, protect her, and take care of her the rest of her life. And I could not keep that promise. I could not keep that promise. And I looked at her and I said, I'm sorry, I'm done drinking, I'm done. And if there's ever a time in my life, that I meant that I was done, was at that time. I was done drinking. I wanted to love and protect that child like she deserved to be loved and protected by her mother. And it was a matter of hours, and I was off to the races again. And you see, this is what I've come to realize in the program, that I didn't lack love for this child. What I lacked was the power to stop drinking. Because I could take a bullet and I will fight like a beast for her. But I cannot stop drinking, and I cannot stop, not because I don't love her, it's because I don't have the sufficient power to bring about the separation from alcohol, because once I'm separated, there's a lot of insanity and unmanageability that happens. I don't know how to do life sober. And so I need some relief. And the only relief that I had was alcohol. That was my only solution. And so now I just told Maggie at that point, I said, so from now on, I'm just going to drink at the house, and you're going to have to close your door. And so that's how that went, But God had other plans for me in my life and for my children. I got a job offer, and I got relocated to Miami, Florida in 2014. And I thought that was a great idea, because I was going to go back to my parents' house, and they were going to help me control my drinking. And here I am doing the geographical again, and I moved back to Miami, and I started at work in March, and in July I was fired. And I was fired because I did a no-call, no-show. You have to show up to work if you're employed by somebody else, and I did not show up to work, and so they fired me. And I was like, came back because I went on a trip. That's why I went on a trip. I did a no-call, no-show. And then I was mad, and I was so confused on why they fired me, and this, my mind at that time told me, they don't know what they're doing, they're dumb, and like my ego was like, at this time I was like, they don't know what, like what they're doing, they're not going to be able to survive without, they're going to beg you to come back. They didn't beg me, they still haven't asked me to come back, to this day. And then I thought that the company was going to plunge, and it's still running and still very, they're well off, they did not need of me. So, what did I do that day? I went out to a bar and I drank. At that time, my sister had moved to Miami, Florida too, and she had come into the program. She had 10 months of sobriety. And she used to drink, so I was doing the comparisons, and she used to drink like everything. Like she used to drink alcohol, beer, wine, everything, right? Like all of it, the whole cocktail, And I was like, yeah, you really need it. I'm so glad you found that help. You need it, and I thank her for honoring the traditions in this, that we hold in these meetings. Because she never disclosed to me what happens when she came to these meetings. Had she disclosed that to me, my mind would have probably shut down the opportunity to even come into these rooms, because I didn't know at that time. I thought she was going to graduate. It's like, so what step are you on? She's like, 12. And how many do you have? 12. I was like, are you done? So you're graduating? And she never told me anything, and I thank that, and I thank her for that, because that helped save my life. Had she told me that this was a program of one day at a time and continually to practice this, like I probably would have not wanted to join this, jumped on your ship, because I would have been scared. And scared, why would I scare? When I think about that, when I'm scared, is because I never did anything that I set out to do. I always had good intentions, like I'm going to be a good mother, and I'm going to protect my child, and I could never bring about the action to do what was asked of me to do. And so, I got fired, I went out to drink, and, she never told me nothing until July 23rd. I was drinking. And the day before July 23rd and July 22nd, I just drank it wasn't like anything big, like wild or anything. It was just like a 12-pack, and I remember drinking, and the way that I drank, guys, was like, the minute that the alcohol touched my lips, my body immediately went like this. I can breathe again. It was like a child that needed, his inhaler for oxygen. That's the way it works in my life. That's my inhaler in order to continue to live and breathe. And the minute that I took that first drink, I used to feel like Corona was gonna run out. Like, oh, drink more and drink. And people used to tell me, like, slow down, you're drinking so fast. And I used to get so mad, like, mind your own business. Like, this is my shenanigans. I brought this Corona here, I'll drink it as fast as I want. And God forbid, like, I would take a 12-pack to my grandma's house. I would hide them because I wouldn't want to share them, like, that's just how I drank, And Corona's still producing, it never stopped, running out. Like, I thought it was gonna run out, and I had that fear inside internally, so I was terminated, and on July 23rd, I woke up with the pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. I had a pain that I could not put my finger in. I had so much shame, guilt. I was broken internally. And it was that moment of like, God help me, and that the thought, the action that followed after that, like I was broken inside. I was tired of being the woman that I was up to that point. I was doing stuff that a woman of worth and dignity should not be doing. Waking up and I'm like, who the hell are you? And just like embarrassing, degrading stuff, And I woke up that day and I was just like really broken inside. And I just said, God help me. And I texted my sister and I was like, take me to your happy rooms, whatever they are. I want to go to your happy rooms, because she was an example of what this program is about. And she was the book for me, and I saw that, and I wanted whatever she had, and she seemed happy, and so she was the example in my life. And then that was like when I woke up and I was in this pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization, and she's like, I'll pick you up. And then like 2 hours later, I was like, oh, maybe I was overreacting, But she was on it. She did not care. I was like, oh, maybe I was being a little bit dramatic. And she didn't care. She ignored all my messages afterwards. She was like on it. She was like white on rice, like I'm all up in my Kool-Aid, And at 5 o'clock, she took me to the first meeting. And I sat there and I was like, I was like, wow, I'm so sorry for you guys. You guys have a lot of problems, and I could not relate, and I didn't relate. So she's like, I'm like, yeah, I don't really think I belong here. Like, I'm sorry, I made you waste your time. Thank you so much, and she's like, nope, we're going to another meeting. And she took me to another meeting, and at that meeting, I said, all right, look, Lucia, her name is Lucia, and I said, look, do me a favor, please don't leave me alone. And I don't want I used to refer to women's as a very degrading word because that's how I felt about myself, And I was like, please don't let this beast come up to me and like talk to me because I have nothing to offer them. I thought they were, like twisted, like sick. And so she left me alone. And we went to the meeting and, like I didn't, like they knew I was new, that like I didn't think that they would know, but I'm like, I'm here to support her, she was already texting her friends, and doing the whole, I believe that we're angels and we work behind the scenes. We are God's angels and we're in the firing line trying to help another alcoholic, and that's what my sister was at that time. And so as soon as the prayer finishes, she leaves me alone and she goes to the bathroom, and I'm like a lost child. I felt like, oh my God, I'm lost with all these people that I don't know, and I was afraid. And the reason why I didn't want to be left alone was because this is what happens when you come to me and you ask me how you're doing. At that time, my mind would say, what does she mean by what she's doing? How am I doing? Does she want to know like my professional life or my mother? Like I would have conversations to answer your one simple question. It wasn't like sincere, and so I was just a woman riddled with fear. I walked around life with fear, and some of them got my number, 2 of them, and then I thank both of these 2 young ladies that got my number, and and they reached out the next day, and I was like, why are they gonna get my number? Like, what are we gonna talk about? Like I could, like, what are we gonna talk about? Like, I could not understand this whole concept of why we need numbers. Like, And the next day they reached out, and she told, they're like, oh, let's go to a meeting together. And they arranged. I was that broken newcomer that came into these rooms, and I had nothing to offer. And these women found the chair for me to sit and find hope, love, and recovery. And they met me at the second meeting, and I walked in, and I heard a lot of, this is meeting number 3, and I still could not relate. I was like, you guys have a lot of problems. Like, you guys go to rehab and treatment centers and drugs and all this stuff, and I didn't do all of that. All I drank was beer, Corona Light, not even, and so my mind was shutting down. Like, it did not want me to get well. It did not. Like, this is so powerful. It does not allow me to see the truth, and to get well. And after the meeting, I said, I don't really think I belong here, and then they asked me this question, which changed my life. They say, all right, they stayed after me, talking to me, right? And after I told them that I didn't think I belonged, they said, okay, we're gonna ask you a question. And I was like, sure, go ahead. And do you remember in the last year 5 times that you've been sober and happy at an event? This is what my mind says. What the hell do they mean by sober and happy? Does that mean like 1 beer or 2 beer? Does that mean buzz? Or does that mean like barely there? Like, what is sober? What do they, and so my mind at that time is confused. This is a curveball. What do you mean sober? Like, I'm lost, And sober means sober, like nothing, like water, like no alcohol or other substances in your system, and then I could not, understand that question. Like, give me a mathematical question, and that would have probably been easier to resolve, And so when she told me that, I had a moment of clarity, and I think in that moment when the window opened, God came in, and He came in and He grabbed me, because when she said that, she said, sober is, like for your birthday. 5 times, guys. She's asked me 5 times in 1 year. That means my birthday, 4th of July, Labor Day, Christmas, Thanksgiving, Cinco de Mayo, like Super Bowl, your birthday, our birthdays, and then, St. Patrick's Day, and I'm not Irish, and I could not, bring in any of these holidays or any events sober. She said, normal people say this. Oh, do you remember that one time we got drunk when we were 18? And then that second time when we were 21, and then for your bachelor's party, and that's when we got really hammered. And that's it. I was like, I said, probably I do have a problem, And that was that's what I needed. Because she says normal people are just they ask them this question, have you ever been to an event and you've been sober? And they say yes or no and move on. They're like, that's it. They're not overthinking anything in here, right? And I was overthinking everything. And from that moment on, my life changed. I got a sponsor, and it was this lady, Susie. She helped save my life. When I met with Susie, and I thank God that I was willing. My ego was smashed completely, where God could come in, and and the help that I needed was there. And Susie became my sponsor, and she was this little Caucasian Irish lady. I was like, she's so cute, so I'm gonna play circles on her, and my mind is twisted. This woman is doing this for fun and for free. She's gonna help save my life, and my mind is saying, you're gonna play circles on her for her time to help save my life, and I started working the steps with Susie, and she was not she was not a cute little lady. She was like, do not waste my time. I was like, damn, you got problems, and she's like, you're gonna be committed to work all 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous with me, from step 1 to step 12, and then you're gonna go out there and carry this message. Can you commit to that? And I was like, I have no choice. You're gonna kill me right now if I don't say yes. And Susie went ahead and I made that commitment. One time I was 15 minutes late, and she says, "You're selfish and self-centered. You're 15 minutes late." And I was like, "That's not a big deal. It's only 15 minutes, you know?" And she's like, "I have things to do, and if we commit to a time, we need to do, you know, you need to be here at that time." Another time, like, I was on the phone with Susie, and I was like, "And I'm dating this guy," and she's like, "We've been on the phone for 18 minutes. That's way too long. I'm not your therapist." And she like, click. I was like, "Damn, she is not." Like, she was like this hardcore woman, you know. And I think God found somebody, placed a woman in my life that could go and see past through whatever my mind was telling me, and that she could touch my spirit, help my spirit be awakened, you know. And you know, I started the steps, and when I got to step 2, you know, one of the I had a lot of preconceived notion, and I was Catholic. I was raised Catholic, you know, and there's 10 commandments, and I'm like, I probably failed all 9 of them. You know, I didn't kill somebody, but you know, I'm condemned. When I came in, I felt like I'm condemned. You know, I come into this program, I had 10 steps, you know, 10 you know, whatever, I can't remember right now, but 10 commandments to follow. And I come to the program, and now you guys have 12. That's 2 more. I could barely do 10. You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all are adding 2 more to this lifestyle. I cannot do this, guys. And you know, what she said, came to believe that a power greater than yourself could restore you to sanity. And I had such a hard time coming to believe. And the reason why I had such a hard time coming to believe was because I thought that God did not want anything to do with the woman that I was, with the type of woman that I had. Like, I was not a woman that I didn't think God wanted to waste his time with. I didn't think I was worthy of any type of restoration to sanity, you know. And she's like, "Well, do you believe that I've been restored to sanity?" And I said, "Well, you look pretty sane to me." And she's like, "Well, just believe that I believe. Can you do that?" And to me, that was not really, I didn't understand that. Like, she's like, "We're just going to move on. Do you believe that I've been restored to sanity?" I'm like, "I'm not worthy." And I used to tell her, I'm just scared that I'm not going to be able to do this program as it's outlined, because I'm going to mess it up, because I mess up everything. Like, I mess up everything, guys. And she's like, "It's okay." And I'm like, "And I'm going to go to hell." And she's like, "Well, why don't we worry about hell later, and we worry about life today?" You know, and I was like, "Oh, good idea." You know, she's like, "We're alive." You know, and I was like, "Oh, good idea," you know. And, you know, and I started doing whatever Susie told me. Susie told me to jump, I jumped. She told me to get a commitment, I got a commitment. She told me to read the book, I got the book. I got there on time. I did whatever that woman instructed me to do. Everything, you know, and I thank her for taking the time to help save my life. You know, one of the biggest gifts that I've received, you know, one has been being able to restore relationships. And I think the biggest relationships that I've had the opportunity to restore was with my children, and the gift of life. Today I want to live more than I want to die. When I came in, I wanted to die more than I wanted to live. And for that, I am extremely grateful to this program. You know, one of the things that happened while I was in the process of recovery, I get served from my ex-husband. He wants to file for a divorce. I would not disagree. I was not the perfect wife. You know, I had like multiple boyfriends on the side, you know, throughout our entire marriage. And while we were married, and he would get mad, and I was just confused, like, you know, and he would want my phone. I'm like, "Why do you want my phone?" You know, and like, it was just like a mess, right? And so I got served for my divorce, and he lists all these things, you know, like he wants custody of the children. At this point, I had a few months in sobriety. October, I had like a few months in sobriety, and he, you know, he wants custody of the kids. He wants child support, alimony, all this thing. And all I remember when I got served was what people told me in the rooms. This is what they told me: put the program first, and everything else will fall into place. I did not understand how putting the program first was going to take care of my divorce bill and everything else that came along with that divorce. But I listened. I listened because I was willing. And I got my divorce papers, and I went to the courtroom at 10:30 in Miami, and I put the program first. I just went to a meeting. That's all I knew what to do. I didn't know what to do. So I went to the meeting, and, and things just started happening in my life. My dad gave me a business card for an attorney, and I'm like, I don't have money for an attorney. And I went into the attorney's office, and they told me to change my thinking. Well, how do I do that? Like, if I had the power, I would not be sitting in Alcoholics Anonymous. And so the only thing that I can bring about was read the book, right? And so they told me, and I was reading the book when I went to this attorney's office, and I'm sitting there, and the attorney comes out, and I'm reading the book, and, just trying to silence some of this noise. And he comes out, and he's like, "What are you reading there, kiddo?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm all up in my Kool-Aid, like nosy." And I said, I decided to disclose my anonymity. I said, "I'm friends with Bill." And he said, "I'm friends with Bill too. You're safe." And at that moment, like, I started to come to believe that a power greater than myself was working in my life. And I was not only coming to believe, I was awakened to seeing that power working in my life. And I was grateful for that this power has entered into my life. And we would go to trials and all this stuff of the divorce, and I would say, I want to, this is the woman that came in, I want to stab him in his aorta. I just don't want to stab, like, I want to make sure he's gone. And my sponsor's like, "I don't ever want to hear you say that again." I'm like, "Fine." That's what I really want to do. And then he's like, "We're not going to do that. We're going to pray for him." I was like, pray for this guy, and so the divorce got prolonged, but I did. I prayed, and I never said that again. Now I'm saying it because I just want you guys to relate to the woman that came in, And we started praying for this guy, and at the end of when we were in trial, the fellowship of AA showed up. And there were my people were sitting outside this room, the courthouse, saying, because he said, "She's a drunk, she's an alcoholic." And I was at one point, but today I'm a recovered alcoholic, and they were sitting outside and saying that I am an active member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and that I am carrying the message. And the judge had been one of our judges. He went into criminal. He was a criminal judge. Now he's in the family. So he understood very well what the magic that happens in these rooms. And when he saw that there were people from the fellowship and that they were willing to testify and to, support, he came up to me, and after the divorce, he said, or while he was giving his final, sentence or whatever, he said, "Maria, you're going to have full custody of your kids. You're not going to pay him any alimony. You're going to get child support." And he looked at him and he says, "You have some chutzpah to coming in here and trying to take this away from this woman that's trying to live a sober life today." He says, "As a matter of fact, you got to pay him retroactive child support." I was like, boom, got you, So, I was like, thank you, God. He came down and he's like, "Can I give you a hug?" And I said, "Absolutely." He's like, "Keep doing what you're doing, kiddo. Keep doing what you're doing." And I have kept doing what I'm doing. Like, that's the type of, those are my friends now. Prior to coming to that divorce, my son Junior, which I love absolutely, one day I was driving, and my other son Junior, this is what happens when I'm dry, when I don't have a solution in my life. My younger son Georgie was crying, "I don't want to go to school, I'm going late to work," and so the whole rat race is going on. You see, my sense of emergency, or my lack of planning becomes your sense of your emergency. And I was running late, I didn't plan, I didn't get up on time, so I made my sons selfishly, that's their emergency. And he didn't want to go to school, and this is what happens to me when I'm dry and no program. I got a belt and I started hitting him. And my other son, Junior, recorded this and sent it to his dad, and this was prior to the divorce, And And then I called my sponsor, and she's like, pray. And I was always directed to a power. I was always, throughout my entire journey in recovery, I've always been directed to a power greater than myself that can solve all my problems. And inside of me, like, I did not want to hit my child the way that I treated him. I absolutely love my kids, and I would die for these children. And I was just, and so I need this program. I need this program to be the woman that God has intended me to be the mother that God has intended me to be. My life has changed, throughout in recovery. Once I was like, I'm done. I don't want to fall. I remember telling my sponsor, I don't want to fall in love. I don't want to do anything. I'm done. I don't want to. And then, and I started doing another inventory. And through inventory work, I prayed for an ideal that somebody that loved God or wanted to grow an image and likeness of our Creator. And I wanted to walk a journey with a man that would do that. And I prayed, and I started walking that journey myself, and Carlos came into my life, and we love Alcoholics Anonymous, and we seek to be an image and likeness of our Creator. We are so blessed to have God in the center of our lives, today. We gave birth to 2 little girls, Joy and Ava, that's baby number 4 and 5. And I love getting a second chance to be that mother to these little girls. To be a sober mother to 2 little girls. I'm far from perfect. But I have a willingness inside of me to go to any length for my recovery, because I want to continue to grow, and I want to continue to carry love and peace and serenity. I want to be that. I'm going to read a few things just because to me this is very important, just to give you an image of the relationships I have that through the program, through you guys, I've been able to restore with my children. Junior, the one that I hit, that recorded me, didn't want to live with me. He sent me a text message one time, and he said, happy birthday, Mom. I love you with all my heart. You do everything and anything for us. Without you, we would be nothing today. It's your head. Keep your head up and smile. I love you. You are truly the best mom in the world. I don't know what life without you would be. You see, the woman that walked in here 9 years ago was not that woman. My daughter, Maggie, when my Joy was going to be born, she sends me this message. She says, good morning, my beautiful mother. You're about to embark on another beautiful journey that God has given and blessed the family with. I cannot wait to meet my baby sister. I know that she couldn't be born into a better family. She's going to grow up being loved and cared. She's going to be born with such an example, an amazing example of what a lady is, a lady that is caring and will do for her family anything. I look up to you, and Joy will do the same. This was my daughter that I could not protect when she was 13. And she's looking up to the woman that's standing here in this podium today. To me, that's mind-blowing. To me, I have no words to say thank you to Alcoholics Anonymous and to the fellowship and to God. I'm going to say with my brother, just so you guys know about him, my mother donated his organs. Last year, I used to carry a lot of guilt with my brother because our last goodbye was like a sibling's disagreement. And I used to carry a lot of guilt with George. And I wish I had another opportunity to just tell him how much I loved him and how much I cared about George. Last year, we met with the guy that received my brother's heart. My parents donated all his organs, and we got to meet Mark Regan. And I went and I got a stethoscope, and I hope you guys, I'm pronouncing it right. And I brought it home, and he came to North Carolina to visit. And I sat there, and I brought it for my mother, so she can listen to her son's heart, and she was there, and she was just caressing that heart with so much love, because his son is still alive. I sat there and I heard my brother's heart too. And I told him everything my heart needed to tell him. And I got the opportunity to tell George through Mark. How grateful I was and how blessed I am to have him as a brother, and that I miss him, and that I love him with all my heart. And Mark just looked at me, he's like, kiddo, your brother would be so proud of you. You know, keep doing what you're doing. Be gentle with yourself. Be kind. You know, you see, I think I heard at the beginning, don't leave until the miracle happens. But this is the thing, miracles don't stop happening in these rooms. Every day and every time that I get closer to God, I have an opportunity to be part of a miracle, whether it's my miracle or your miracle. But miracles don't stop happening in these rooms. I thank God for the relationships that I've restored, for the love that I have, and for the opportunity to be of service to anyone in this fellowship, especially those women that come in broken, hopeless, and don't think that they are worthy of anything, because we as women come in very broken. I don't have an experience as a guy. I only have an experience as a woman. But that's all I can tell you. I'm going to read two things, and I'm going to close with these two things. Page 41, there's a small paragraph that says, 431. I once knew a woman who was crying before a meeting. She was approached by a 5-year-old who told her, "You don't have to cry here. This is a good place. They took my daddy and they made him better." This is exactly what Alcoholics Anonymous did for me. It took me and it made me better. And for that, I am extremely grateful. And this is what I'm going to close. This is also the other great fact, is just this and nothing less, that we have had deep and effective spiritual experience which have revolutionized our whole attitude towards life, towards our fellows, and towards God's universe. The central fact of our life today is the absolute certainty that our Creator has entered into our hearts and lives in a way which is indeed miraculously. He has commenced to accomplish those things for us which we could never do by ourselves. How does a woman that came in 9.5 years ago, could not protect her child, be here having these type of relationships? I owe it all to God, to the fellowship, and to those people that allow me to be part of their lives and hold me and carry me when I couldn't even walk. You know, if you're new, there's a way out. We have found a solution, and there is a way out. You're 12 steps from a different life. That's all I have. Thank you, guys.